The other one really isn't started, so I don't quite know how that worked, but hmm. Yeah, I think we're just going to go on with this one, and then it says there's 14 in here. Let's see. So we're going to use this one. I'm not sure what link this is. Is this the new link? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
All right, so let's just use this one. Were you in an old meeting before this one, or this is the one you started in?
This is the one that I started.
Wow. Okay.
Who's the second one?
This is the second one for some people. All right. Okay, so I think we're okay now. All right, sorry. I don't know what happened there. Okay, so we're going to look at research. And I don't know what you guys have done in research before. I'm not sure what's going on with this recording here. Well, okay, so we'll go ahead and start anyway. It's not supposed to be recording. It's also recording, so that's interesting. So we may have 20 minutes of nothing really to start, and maybe I can cut that later. Anyway, what we want to do is look at the, if we go to your Canvas site, let's go to the Canvas site here. And then if we were to just log into Canvas, your Canvas that you go into, this is what you would see, 115.80. And if we were just on the home page, we would see all of this, announcements, the conversations, the assignment, the discussion, that kind of stuff. So it's the activity. But what we're interested in today are the files. So we click on files, and then notice there's a couple of new things
Mr.
here.
Osborne,
Yes,
sorry.
Sam.
Good morning.
Yes.
We can't see your screen.
You can see my screen. All right.
No.
Another issue. Hold on. Sure, we can do this. I don't know what's going on here. Wow. Yep, I have no idea what's going on here. Can you see my screen now? Can you see me now?
No, not your screen. I can see you, but not your screen.
Okay. All right, so we'll fix that.
Okay, now we can see it.
Now we can see it. All right. Okay. So we're looking at files now. So you guys can all see it. Okay, good. Technical difficulties, I tell you. All right. So again, if we're looking at the files and we're looking at these new files, we're going to see that we have one called Climate Change Research. And if I click on that one, it's going to give me some information. It's going to give me some directions in there. It's also going to give me a couple of articles on global warming that I got from last class, and I'm going to be putting some more on. But this week we want to finish off with the essays that you're working on. We want to kind of get them all done. So I haven't really started much with this yet, but I want to show you, for those of you that are kind of, you're ready for this, you've got everything done, these are the directions for it.
When is the essay due?
This last essay? I think I put it on, oh, here it is.
Oh, it's
so the
on
first
the
draft
28th?
is on April 28th.
Okay.
Yeah, the first draft. first draft so we can see what's going on. And then, and I can give you some feedback. And the final draft will be due on the 11th of May. So that's a couple of weeks. And then our final day of class, I think, is the 22nd, something like that. So that gives me a chance to look at your stuff. If you have to revise, I can mark it for you and you can revise it, fix it up. So that gives us some time to work on that. And so if we're looking at this thing, what you're going to be doing is kind of comparing two essays. That's what you're going to do. And so it says of the 4 essays read, and you're going to have 2 main essays that you'll be working with. There's actually going to be a lot of essays that you're going to be working with, but you're going to choose 2 out of all these essays that you feel are really good, and you're going to compare them. So you're going to look at each essay's perspective. In other words, each one is going to have an idea or some way to mitigate climate change. It's not necessarily a solution, but it's something that would help. So we might be looking at one that has to do with science, and they're saying, well, we think we can develop this organism that we can drop in the ocean, it can eat up the oil, and by the way, it'll produce a lot of oxygen. So, okay, that's a great idea because we could really use more oxygen, especially with the rainforest being cut down. We could really use it. And maybe another person says, and they're more practical, they say, well, we should do something with fossil fuels. We're using too many fossil fuels. We have to figure out what to do with transportation, because that's about 25% in the United States of our problem. So if we could figure out how to control that, that would slow climate change down quite a bit. So we might have 2. One is sort of a business proposal, and the other one is maybe a science proposal. So you might be comparing those 2 things in terms of which one is more effective. It could be in terms of time, it could be in terms of impact, it could be in terms of how much does it cost to do it. All of those things would be ways of looking at what's more effective. So we are interested in mitigation, and mitigation is not stopping climate change, it's in slowing it down. That's all it is. So you're going to have probably 5 or 6 paragraphs. You're going to have an introduction. In your introduction, you'll provide some background. You'll be talking about what's going on with climate change and the need to slow it down. And then you're going to create a thesis, and your thesis is going to be mentioning these 2 essays. It's going to be mentioning the 2 essays, and it's going to be summarizing them. I think, yeah. Summarizing the 2 essays, so you would have introduction, 2 summary paragraphs of the essays, and then you would compare them. So you would have a couple more, maybe 2 more comparative paragraphs that would sort of take the good points that you find and the bad points and determine which one is better. And then you have a conclusion. So when we're doing this, you want to figure out, do they extend one another? Or in other words, does one essay have a certain amount of information? And when you read it, the other essay, it adds to the information. So we have some information about mitigating, but now we have more. So when you compare, you use these words. Does one corroborate another one? Does it support exactly what the other one said and maybe add a little to it? Does it complicate it? So it says, well, you could do certain things, but it makes more sense to do these things. It doesn't argue with it. It just says, well, that's true, but we should also do this, or maybe we should do this first. Contradict is when looking at both of these things, one is sort of quite different than the other one, and in fact it contradicts it. It says, no, I don't think so. I think it should be done this way. Or does one correct something? It says, well, people have thought for a long time if we did that it works, but not really, we should do this. Or debate is when they argue. So you're going to be using this terminology in your piece. You're going to need 6 sources. I'm going to be putting quite a few on. So you're going to be working with that stuff. So these are the directions. We'll also have, you know, a more defined format, because I think you guys like that. You like sort of a an outline of what you need to do. This is the pre-writing. It starts with the frame of reference. What are we looking at? We're looking at mitigating. List similarities and differences. This is stuff you might list on your own paper. So in terms of results, what do we get from this one? What do we get from that one? Timeline, what do we get from this? What do we get from that one? Cost, what is it? What do we get from this? What do we get from that one? And then you write your thesis, and you talk about, you know, one essay suggests doing this thing compared to the other essay which would suggest doing that thing. And then as you write your paper and your conclusion, you're going to determine what do you think was more effective. You outline the rest of your paragraphs, and again, I'm going to give you a little format for that. So you'll know you have an introduction, 2 summary paragraphs, probably 2 comparative paragraphs, and a conclusion. So that's what you're going to kind of be looking at. Okay, rough draft will be done on the 28th, and then the final draft on the 11th. This piece right here is the writing prompt itself. Should it come up? And so this is also explaining the same thing, only it's not showing you how to do it. So we want to know in these pieces, it's a comparative argument, which text is more convincing and why. And so this is more closer to an outline. It tells you what you should have in your introduction, what you should have in your body paragraphs, and in the conclusion. We're probably going to do a précis for each one of these essays just because it's easier. That'll be kind of your summary paragraphs. We'll see how we go on this one. So those are sort of the instructions that we'll go over really in depth another time. What we want to look at also is some of this stuff. So so we have a couple of research articles that were posted from before, and they're really basic ones. This one is kind of asking why we haven't gotten more interested in stopping climate change. And people will talk about, well, you know, if you don't want to do it for yourself, do it for the future, do it for your children, do it for people that have to live with the mess that you're probably going to leave them. And so it talks about how we're really not built for that. It's hard for us to empathize with something that's, you know, 50 years down the road. We only see what's in front of us. So this one kind of talks about that, and it's very interesting, which is probably one reason that we don't talk about climate change very much, because for us, we think it's way into the future. This is a little cartoon, and it kind of explains why we think like this. So some people think, well, it's not real. I don't see anything going on that's a real problem for me. And yet the scientists are telling us that we have to be careful, because if we think about it, and you know, we've probably explained this before, the Earth is a circle. If we put a blanket around the Earth, it would keep it warm, and if the sun heated the blanket, then that would be nice. It would be nice for us. But if it were a blanket of carbon dioxide around the sun, when it heats it, what happens, what's on the inside gets warmer and hotter. And so eventually it's very hot in there. So that's what's going on with us, which is why our climate is probably going to change. We have what's called a temperate climate. Our United States is one of the areas that's going to change the most. So we're going to become very hot, which means we're going to have some other problems just for us. And then the rainforest, the countries that have most of the rainforests are cutting them down really fast. And that means 2 things. One is that the Earth's ability to produce oxygen is much lower than it used to be. which of course we need oxygen, good air. The other thing that's coming out of the rainforest are diseases like this COVID thing we have. There are diseases in there that we haven't seen for thousands of years. And we're not prepared to, we don't have any vaccines against them. So it's going to be a continuing problem. Sustainability is something we have to start thinking about. We have to actually change lifestyles, because the way we live right now, if for instance you wanted to buy a new shirt, you think, oh, you know, it's cheap. I mean, I can get it for like, I don't know, $20. It looks really nice. What you don't know is that that shirt takes 713 gallons of water to make. And the question is, when we're wearing all these new clothes, all this water it takes to make, where's it coming from? We have less than 1% of the water on the earth is actually drinkable water. The rest of it is water we can't drink. There's a lot of salt water. So when you think there's a lot of water on the earth, there's not a lot of water we can actually drink. So when we think about sustainability, that impacts not only the air, but the water, but people don't see it because they don't understand. The weather's started to change now pretty fast. So if we were looking at the Midwest, we know that some of the farmers are having real difficulty because they're having these floods that they just never had before. There are tornadoes on the East Coast. They didn't have tornadoes before. Flooding on the East Coast, they never had that before. So this is all the result of changes that are going on. If we were just looking at forests in California, we've lost millions of trees, and we're going to be losing more trees to the point where we won't have any trees. And this isn't even talking about, I'm not talking about the fires, I'm just talking about the change in climate. With the fires, we're losing even more. So there's probably going to come a day pretty soon when California just doesn't have any trees. Trees produce quite a bit of oxygen. So there's some things going on. And then we know when you burn something, or when something decomposes, it releases carbon dioxide. So that causes that blanket we were talking about to get thicker, even more thick, which is why we need things to grow. We need forests, we need things like that. We're probably gonna have to start working in green jobs, jobs that don't produce a lot of pollution, because if we're in jobs that create a lot of pollution, then, you know, eventually we really won't be able to live on this earth. We have to start thinking about how we can change it. Also to make our cities livable. So back in the day, in the 70s, when we really had no idea, we had what was called acid rain. And that would fall, in particular in the cities, because they had a lot of smokestacks from the industries. And so the rain that would fall had ash in it, and that would cause acidity. And it would eat up the brick, and it would eat up the sidewalk, and it killed all the trees, and it was, things were awful. There's also lots of, the air was, in cities like Los Angeles, not really breathable. So renewables are something we want to use more of. I know this is not a new concept. My grandmother back in the day, because she went through the Depression, and in the 1930s, where there was no money. So what she would do when we were kids is she would wash the meat trays, the things that the hamburger comes on, the plastic thing. That would become our paper plates. She did a lot of stuff like that. So our generation sort of waste. We get a paper plate, we throw it out, we buy shirts, we don't wear them, or we want new ones all the time. And so we're using up stuff that the older generations really didn't use up that much. And so in the end, we're looking at clean water, air, and not just that, but if for instance, our farmers can't grow food, then food is going to become more expensive and scarce. And in the long run, we won't have healthy children. So all of that's going on. Somebody has a rooster. So there's going to be more articles here for you guys to look at, but also you guys are going to be doing some research. So we're going to talk about that. I want to show you guys maybe 2 little videos because you may not kind of understand why you're doing this. Good to know why you're doing it. So So maybe you want to, if you got the rooster, you might want to put mute your mic. Okay. So scholarship. When we think about it, it's kind of like a conversation. So you guys are borrowing information from other people. I'm just going to...
Welcome to Research 101. Scholarship is a conversation. Published articles and dissertations form a discussion that involves critiques, arguments, and additions to our understanding of the world. But wait, what does that mean? Well, you know when you're at a party and there are different conversations going on at once. In one corner, people might be discussing climate change and vision. On the other side of the room, some people are talking about the new electric car technology. You have heard both of these conversations and began a new conversation that discusses the impact of technology in reducing pollution. This is what the scholarly conversation is. It's multiple people writing and publishing their ideas and hoping that others will pick up and use this information to form new conversations. Now, this party is really huge. There are a lot of conversations happening at once, and not everyone agrees. In all of these situations, you're just hearing a part of the story from a few voices. Any given piece of scholarly work does not represent the only, or even a majority, perspective on the issue at hand. A single source represents just the view and research of that author. Additionally, you're entering the middle of the conversation, certainly not the end. When you're conducting research as a student, it isn't possible to read every article on a certain topic. However, you should read some articles to get a sense of the context for the research related to your topic. As you research, it's necessary to evaluate the work of others, but also try to see yourself as a producer and a consumer of information. As a student, you can contribute to the scholarly conversation. Well,
Okay, so this thing that we were just looking at, you can see that you can click on that and you can actually pull those videos back up. So I'm going to show you one more, and then I'm going to show you that if you were at the meeting or weren't at the meeting, the library meeting, there's also a link that you can click for that one. So what I want you to do is be able to access the information you need to sort of create your paper. We do have these videos that we're recording. I'm not so sure about this one today because we had 20 or 25 minutes where it was kind of useless. So I'm going to see if I can cut the video. If not, I'm not sure I'm going to post this one. If you think it has value, I will. But I can also post one from a different class that didn't have this technical problem. So we'll see about that. So let's go see the other video. So again, you have this on your in your files. So this one you can click on. You can come back to this and watch it when you want to. This thing on databases. So I wanted to point this one out because most people want to do Google searches, and this is kind of telling you why it's not such a great idea to do a Google search.
Hello, I'm Bud, and I'm going to show you why you need library databases for research. By now, almost everyone is familiar with searching the web. But have you ever stopped to think of what you're searching? Google, Bing, and Yahoo only give you free access to what companies and people have made available to the public. This is great if you're shopping or browsing movie trailers, but is limited when you need to find information for research. Unfortunately, unlimited access to reliable information is restricted because many publishers want to be paid. They won't give free access to their copyrighted content. On the web, anyone can create a website on any subject, whether they are an authority or not. No one is policing the web. This makes it hard to find credible information, which is important when you're doing research. Also, search engines can give you millions of results for each search and only give you a few options to narrow it down. So it's hard to scan the results and find the exact information you're looking for. Now, let me tell you about databases. Databases allow you to find information not freely available on the web. They search thousands of articles and books. You can also find images, charts, and primary sources. Some cover a range of topics. Others are more focused on specific subjects, such as literature, education, or controversial issues. You'll want to choose a database based on your research topic. The articles in databases are from popular magazines, newspapers, trade journals, and encyclopedias. You'll also find scholarly and peer-reviewed articles. They've been chosen because they are written by credible authors, such as journalists, researchers, and experts in their fields. Just like when you search the web, you'll still get lots of results. However, databases give you more control over your results with powerful search tools. Some will suggest additional keywords to use to narrow down your topic. You can further refine your results by limiting to a date range, publication type, and full text. Once you find a worthwhile article, a formatted citation is often available to copy and paste into your paper. Library databases are filled with credible content and give you powerful search tools to find relevant results. When you search a database instead of the web, you will spend less time searching and find better information to support your research.
Okay, so those are kind of simple. I think this first one is good because now you kind of understand that it's not necessarily that you're gonna solve any situation. You're gonna have the absolute facts on it. You'll have a perspective based on the research you've done. But if you were thinking about it, other people have also done similar research. So scholarship, or the kind of thing you're doing, is where you sort of enter the conversation. From your perspective, given the resources and the research that you find, it doesn't mean that you're absolutely right or anybody else is absolutely right. It means now you're in conversation with people on that. And in our case, you're going to be talking about mitigating climate change. When you do your searches, you don't want to just do Google. Google is sort of wide open. It's also not reviewed, so anything can be on there. What you find on Google when you first click on it is probably the most common one. And it also filters by the kind of things you've looked at in the past. So the databases don't filter, but Google does filter. So you may not find things that other people find simply because these are not areas that you've been interested in before. So you want to use the databases. This one's going to show you a particular database, Academic Search Premier. And so when you're looking on there and when you go for your databases, and again, we're going to look at that, but this one here is the full library thing. Let me just click on this for a minute in case somebody hasn't been there before.
Good. All right.
So you can speed through it like this.
If you look to the left, you see we have an email address for the library. You can email us, and when we are working online, we are happy to help you in an email. But again, the chat service is always open. All right, so I'm scrolling up, and I'm going to show you what we have in the ebooks and textbooks tab. So let's look at the textbook access part first. Since the physical library is closed, there is no way to find a reserve or check out the reserve book, which is a popular textbook.
So this is a whole hour piece. And but you can sort of speed through it. She does tell you how to access the library, how to get on it. She goes through how to do the databases. She takes you right through everything on the library webpage, how to do it. So it might be worthwhile at least looking at some things, maybe how to get on, how to get to the databases. She's talking about these now. We're probably more interested in the databases. Um, and when you check on databases, and the screen isn't up now, but what you would find is that you have um, choices. So you have choices in terms of, what articles to look at. Do you want to look at newspapers? Do you want to look at books? That's under subject. So there's a bunch of stuff that she will show you on this. So it's really worthwhile looking at it. But for us, I just want to look at one database, Academic Search Premier, and kind of go through that so you can see what the search might look like.
We'll show you how to find a scholarly journal article in the Academic Search Premier. Academic Search Premier is an excellent general database. It covers all subject areas. It's a good starting place to find a variety of articles from scholarly journals or magazines. To access Academic Search Premier, go to the LVC homepage, click on Library, choose Articles and Databases.
Now you don't have an LVC because you're not at Lebanon Valley College, so it'll be something else.
Choose Academic Search Premier. We're going to search for scholarly journal articles on how climate change is affecting the acidity of the oceans. Our keywords are climate change, ocean, and acidity. Put each different keyword from your research question on its own search line. Leave the and off to the left alone. Using and ensures that the database will search for climate change and ocean and acidity. Pay attention to the number of results you retrieve. We've got 89 with this search. That's not very many. Adding synonyms to a search increases your results. Good searchers will always think of synonyms for their keywords. Google can help you find synonyms. Keep your synonyms on the same.
So if you notice, if you click on it and put a word in, it's going to bring up synonyms, so you don't have to necessarily know those synonyms.
Line and connect them with OR. This ensures that the database will execute the search properly. Now we've increased our results significantly. Glancing at the results, we've got a mix of some good results and some results that look a bit off. We'll take a look at the subjects off to the left. Some subjects we could pull into our search are ocean acidification, and climatic change. Now our results look better. Since we want scholarly journal articles, we'll use the academic journal limiter. To take a closer look at our results, hover over the magnifying glass to read the abstract. An abstract is a one-paragraph condensation of the article. It can save you some time. If the article looks useful, put it into the folder. The folder stores results as long as you're actively searching. Finally, before you complete your search, close your tab or close your browser. Make sure you print or email your folder full of results. Click on Folder and choose Email or Print. Additional information on searching databases may be found in the following tutorials.
Okay, so that's just looking at one particular one. I think next Thursday I'm gonna pull up the library website and we're gonna look at mitigating climate change. We're actually gonna do a search. That might help you guys, but I want you to have some background before we just start doing it. So if you weren't available for the library session, I think it was last class, then this is the link. You can click on this and you can watch it again. So you have that in your files. You have that to look for. This is a handout from the Southwestern College. This was something that she was giving us last time when we actually had the library instruction. So I've included that for you guys. So it's got some basic stuff that you might need to know. How to link to the library. Just click on that. And then these tabs at the bottom, it's got sort of a useful way of getting in there now. I can get this thing to roll. Yeah. Okay, now it's working. So this is the button that she's talking about. If you click on this one, then you can do a search. And this is what the library page looks like. They're closed. It's just an easy way to do it. That'll get you into everything. All right. So we have some things that we will eventually be going over. Not today, I don't think. So this is for formatting. In other words, how do you do a citation? I showed you how to do one. So for instance, if we were looking at a citation and we were set up our parentheses, we know it looks like this, parenthetical parentheses. And then we want to know what goes in there. If it was a book or a printed piece, we'd be putting the author's last name and a page number. So if the author's last name had just been mentioned and we already knew it was being cited, we wouldn't put it in again. We don't use commas and we don't use page numbers anymore. So there's some things we're going to be looking at next time. I'm finding, I don't know about you guys, but my internet is slow today. I'm not sure why. I guess it's because everybody's on. And this is an exercise that we're going to be working with. So you need to be able to identify what exactly you're using. So there's a difference between a paraphrase, which is really taking the words of somebody else and putting it in your own words because you think that makes it more accessible for the reader. Perhaps it's really very scientific and high level, and you think, well, they won't understand this. But if you put it in your own words, it would make more sense. The difference between a paraphrase and a summary is a longer passage. You're not really interested in taking those specific words and making them accessible. You may have a page or something that you want to summarize. So it's the whole gist of what's been said on the page. In both cases, you still have to have something like this. You have to have a citation or an in-text citation. And we have to understand what plagiarism is. So when you have a piece that you want to quote the exact words of, that's a quotation. You don't want to have more than 10% in your paper of quotes. Plagiarism is when you take something that should have been quoted and you write it as if it were your own. You take a, good chunk of a sentence and just change a little bit, and you think, now it's mine. No, it's not yours. It's still this other person's. So you would still, if you use more than 5 words in a row, then you have to put it in quotes. And you always want to put in the source. In this case, it's Rousseau 57. So you're going to be doing that one just to make sure that you guys understand the difference and the kind of citation you're working with. This one should be, it's a big handout, and I think it's a pretty useful handout because, you know, it's hard to find all the information in one place. So here's how you do in text citations. I was just telling you. So the author's name is not in the sentence if you look at this one. The effects of ultraviolet radiation may be harmful. So you put the author's name in there, and then you put the page number. The period goes on the outside. Suppose the author's name is in the sentence. So in other words, here's the author's name. We don't put the author's name. We just put the page and put a period. If you have a work by more than one author, so by the same author, sorry. So this is Standish, who's writing Skin Cancer on 145. And then actually, sorry, what should go there? What should go there is just, this is wrong. What should go there is just Standish. Oh, actually, no, it's a different article. So he's written several articles. So you would put the new article there too. So, and it goes through it, and we'll go through this next time, not this time. This is also another pretty easy to fill in format, so, and some people like this. There's what a book looks like. You just fill it in, put the author's last name, first name, book title, publisher, year of publication, you've got your citation. If it's a chapter in a book, you do it like that. The only difference is you put the chapter title in quotes there. Book title is always italicized. So, article in the database. Now, your databases are going to do the citations for you. And so when we actually do that next time, I'll show you how that works. Article on a website, if you just happen to do some searches and you find an article, these are the more difficult ones probably. So author's last name, first name, title of the article goes in quotes, name of the website's italicized, publisher or sponsor of the site, unless the name of the website and the publisher are the same. Say it's Wikipedia, it's the same. Day, month, and year of publication, and then the URL. And this one, some people say is optional. I'd like to see it. When was it accessed? On what did you get it? Which is going to be different than the day of the publication over here. And we want this just in case when we look for this piece, it's gone. Then we know, okay, you accessed it on that date, but maybe they changed it. So I'm looking at the article and it's been revised. Not your problem. So that's why you want this kind of information. Okay, so we'll go over all of that again next time. And this is about paraphrasing, and we have another handout that's about quoting. All right, so I think we had some technical difficulties today. I'm not really sure how valuable this particular one is. Internet was slow, and it took a while for everybody to get on. I think for some reason the link was wrong, and then you couldn't get in and out, so we lost about 20 minutes there. And then this thing started recording right away, and I don't normally do that, so I'm going to have to find out. Maybe the site has actually changed our controls. I don't know. I'll have to find out about that. So we really don't want a video that's really long. We want a short one that just goes through the explanation. So I'm probably not going to post this one. I'll see what it looks like. I'll probably post a similar video that we did in a different class that you can use. Okay. So let's just talk about, let's stop this thing.